Hey, it's Christopher Cardinal, and you're listening to the super fantastic, above average, racing spectacular. Hey, everyone. Hope everyone is doing just absolutely roll tide fantastic. It is now the month of November, race number 2, the round of 8. One more race to go. Then we're off to Homestead, Miami, the championship, the final four, the showdown for the 2018 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Championship. My goodness gracious. Joey Logano. How about Joey? And I said this in previous episodes. You may remember we talk a lot about our big three. I said, who would you say would be, if we were to expand that, widen it out, say let's have a big four? Four drivers when you think of in this sport that have defined NASCAR Cup racing in the past, let's say 4 to 5 years. Let's say you might have a different answer, but I always thought it was Joey. I always thought it was Joey Logano, and I think Joey last year gets stalled with. Well, you know all the story. We're not gonna go back chronologically here, but everybody knows the story of the win at Richmond, incumbent win, excluded from the playoff party, makes up for lost time this year, wins Talladega in the spring, and then just goes on this incredible run in the last couple of weeks, just really tooth and nail, and getting himself just grinding it out, gritty racing. I like it. Final, a little controversy in the last lap there, Martinsville. All depends on who you'll ask, from what perspective you want to see it from. Is Joey in the wrong? Was he too aggressive on that last lap? Did he not give Truex Jr. enough room? Truex Jr. passed him cleanly. Not disputing that. You look at the footage. I've seen this footage throughout the week numerous times, and I'm on the side of Joey, man. I think Joey. I'm not, like I said, I'm not condoning, or I'm not for aggressive racing when you have to resort to wrecking someone to attain a victory. I just think it's in poor taste, and I think sometime it has to be settled on the track, right? And this is really Joey's only opportunity, I thought. Well, he's very good at Texas. More than likely contender at Phoenix, but this team, you can't fault the 22 team. You already lost 2 cars last week, the last race of round of 12. You lose 2 cars in the same race, no longer in contention for this championships. So Penske has the lone car left in this fight. I'm not mad at it. I can't be. I think there was a sense of urgency there. Logano, not to say that he couldn't have won Phoenix, he couldn't have won Texas, but now he has an opportunity to focus on the championship that comes up on November 18th, his opportunity at claiming a title for the first time in his career. And I think, not to say that he's not going to lose complete focus at Texas and Phoenix, but now he can just go out and continue to put on a show, and the pressure's off. I think Logano, you're going to watch this footage over and over. You can watch this till the cows come home, and each and every time I'm going to side with Joey on this one. I think Truex Jr. is coming a little undone. It's coming apart at the seams just a little, but that's just me. So as we said, Logano here, this is his second victory of 2018. Wins it when he needs it the most. Lead in the last 2 races, he's led 409 laps as opposed to 391 in the first 31 races of the season. Hitting his stride, I think he was part of that strong run that Keselowski had at the end of the summer into the fall. Not too far behind him. I mean, the season's been fairly similar. This is locks up an appearance in the Final Four, as we talked about. This is his 3rd time he's done this in 5 years. Impressive, is it not? I mean, Joey, man, I think we talk about Joey a lot when he came up through the ranks in the Xfinity Series, well known as think it was known as Nationwide when he was in there. I mean, that series has changed so many times, but let's, for the sake of keeping it consistent, we're going to call it the Xfinity Series, the current name, the title sponsor of the Grand National Series. When you saw the first race he won at Kentucky, almost a decade ago, Joe Gibbs Racing, the potential there was, could have went two ways, right? It's like any top prospect. And you could say the same thing for William Byron, or that's who comes to mind for me. These generation talents that come around not too often, and could have went either way. I mean, it's 50-50 for any driver, but I think Logano came in to a tremendous amount of hype from New England, Connecticut-born Joey. A lot of great race car drivers have come out of the East Coast, and I think Joey certainly cemented himself as one of the best in the business. 20 career wins now. That puts him 40th on the all-time win list in Cup. He could have went the Casey Atwood route. I know I hate to keep badgering Casey Atwood, but that's who comes to mind as a guy that came in with a tremendous amount of clout. Great things were expected out of Casey Atwood. Casey Atwood never lived up to that expectation. He never quite fulfilled what I guess some in the industry thought he would attain once he moved up the Cup. He had a sensational Xfinity career with Bruco and was up there challenging for wins and championships. And for whatever reason, I know it's easy to lay all the blame on Ray Evernham for maybe cutting him loose too soon, but for whatever reason or another, things never really panned out for Casey Atwood. He could be considered a bust if this was the NFL. Your quarterback you draft first round, it's a bust. Jameis Winston, Buccaneers' current quarterback. That's a label that's starting to be placed on him. Casey Atwood, let's call for what as he was a bust. He didn't work out. He didn't quite live up to that fame that people thought he would capture. And Logano, I think, in the winning this first career run at New Hampshire there, rain shortened. And then he just kind of went cold. Was Joey Logano at one point, would he ever materialize? And I think once he was released from Joe Gibbs, that could have, again, went either way. He could have just fell even below what he already had at that point. It wasn't a very successful run with Joe Gibbs, and it could have been an absolute peril once he left there, but it worked out for him. I'll be the first to say I was skeptical of him at Penske. When I heard he was going to be transitioning to that team and racing for, I think he fit the Penske mold, and I had a lot of reservations about it. And I said, he's not a Penske guy. Well, he proved me wrong, and I'm glad he did, because he has really reinvented himself, and he's become one of the top stars in this sport, and I think very deserving of a championship. And I will be, honestly, depending on who fills up those other three slots, I would say I would be rooting for him, and I would hope that he does attain success on the 18th of November and has an opportunity to take home the hardware. Because I think, as I said it many times, and I'll say it again, I'm a huge supporter of Joe Logano, and I think what he's done in the 22 car has been absolutely sensational, and it's nice to see him do well. So, controversial finish. We could talk about this forever. We'll spend a little time on it here, just for all the cynics out there who just thrive on this kind of stuff. They're just gonna dig their claws into that. Okay, replaying that last lap, Martinsville has become a staple in this championship battle in the playoff for theatrics drama. We had Denny Hamlin, we had Chase Elliott last year. Y'all know how that worked out. This could have went either way. This could have been racing karma. This could have been Denny Hamlin's race. You watch that replay. Was Denny mighty fucking close to just spoiling this for these two guys? And this had been all for naught. You have a heated conversation in the infield, which already had occurred between the crew chiefs. This could have been catastrophic. This was Logano's only shot, and I'm not saying that he's not good at Texas, or he's no shot at Texas, no shot at Phoenix. It's just, I thought Martinsville was an opportunity when you're watching that. This is his one shot, and he's thinking the same thing behind the wheel. This is my one shot. This is the Final Four. It's my ticket back to the promised land, and I think for Logano, it's going to draw a lot of criticism. I draw a lot of criticism from all people like Kyle Busch. My God, Kyle Busch for real. And he went on to social media account and say that his dust up with Larson a little different because he wasn't racing him the same way Martin raced Logano. And I'm not questioning. I'm not ever putting that into question. I'm not disputing that one bit. You look at the tape over and over. You look at the footage. Truex Jr. raced him cleanly, and then it goes back to is it Truex Jr. too polite of a race car driver? Does he not have that edge to just wreck him? And I think aside from Dale Jr., he's one of the cleanest drivers to ever race the Cup Series. You don't really hear of Martin Truex Jr. getting in anybody, and he tends to race everyone with a great deal of respect and one of the cleanest drivers out on the track. And Logano and Penske, man, and even Keselowski, they don't have a lot of friends in the garage area. They tend to be a bit aggressive at times. They go for the win. They let it all. They're just an all or nothing attitude, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is a championship battle. You look at the two sides to the story. It works out for him, which it did. You gamble, that pays off. You get someone hot at you, but at the end of it all, could be the difference between him and Truex Jr. competing for the championship. And then you have B, where you just don't do it. And you just let it play out. It's not meant to be. Maybe it's not your time, but I think now he's put a target on his back. And I know you saw the comments from Truex Jr. that he's assured the public or the racing community that he ain't winning this championship because I'm going to win it. Well, I don't know. I think a lot of critics are going to say, and this draws a lot of criticism, is how clean this race was, but also a lot of the smart marks out there and dirt sheets. And is Truex Jr. is a growing consensus that the demise of Furniture Row is unraveled this team, and I'm going to tend to agree with this. Isn't one since Kentucky. He seems to, but they're there every week. They've got speed. They're fast. It's just execution. Hasn't been able to do that lately for whatever reason. I don't think he's out of it. I think he has a very good chance to be in that Final Four still. It's not over yet. But I think he felt the same as Logano, the sense of urgency. You've got to do it now as you're going to go into Texas. And let's say Texas, we would happen to him in the spring. Not saying that's going to be a repeat performance. However, that's one of his worst finishes of the season. And that puts him in quite a predicament and one hell of a pickle come Phoenix, where his track record ain't all that great there either. And it puts you in a position where you have to, you're going to hope that you get in on the points. And that becomes the biggest battle in the racetrack, the tightest battle in the racetrack, is you'd already have one driver who transfers. Someone wins other than Logano. Say there's a different winner at Texas this week. So there's 2 spots remaining. More than likely the winner, whoever wins Phoenix. So it puts you in that position where you got to transfer in on the point, and nobody wants to be in that position. So these next 2 races, I'm not saying you're going to see an exact duplicate carbon copy of what you saw at Martinsville, but there's a sense of urgency coming now because you know how dominant Truex and Kyle Busch and Harvick have been for most of the season. And then you have the other contingency of Stewart-Haas Racing. There's 3 other drivers from the same stable also in that championship battle. And Chase Elliott, you can never count out old Chase, is red hot previous round. Has a bit of an off day here. And I still think, and I'll say it, I'm standing by it. I think he's in the Final Four. I think you got Chase and Joey. Who's joining them? We'll have to wait and see. Is he a legit title contender? A lot of people say that. He's been no lower than 6th in the standings all season. So, despite you look at the record and you go through the finishes all season long, there's a little inconsistencies there. I mean, that's why Penske doesn't have 2 cars left in this thing. Maybe 3 cars left in this. Keselowski went on that hot run. So did Logano at the end. Even to an extent, Ryan Blaney wins the Roval. It's kind of seemed like they hit their mark just too late. They had displayed or demonstrated this kind of consistency throughout the season. We might be talking about Keselowski still in the thick of things, and he's not. This is Logano's best opportunity, I think. He should have won in 16. That's just me, my opinion on it. Disagree if you want, you can. This seems like if it turns out to be a championship season for him, this is one of the more underrated championship seasons for any probably driver in NASCAR history. Not a whole lot of wins. I mean, compared to what the big 3 have done, that's basically when you start breaking down statistics. And if you want to go that route, you have Joey stealing one from the big 3, and maybe some drivers who have run a little bit better than he did most of the season. And in the end of it all, it doesn't really matter. It's who's there standing in the end, popping the champagne, holding that trophy. Doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, it all comes in you come full circle, and it comes down to the one event. But you got to build up. It's the build up. It's all about the pilgrimage, getting there. There's a lot of rocks and obstacles around at every corner, and there's a hell of a lot of triumphs and tribulations that go into a season. And I think Logano is deserving to be a champion, not only this year, but in years to come. I think Logano is, to me, he's a top 5 driver in the sport out of anyone who's left in this top 5 guy. So his Homestead record, 9 career starts. He has never won here. 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. Not the prettiest record. I mean, he was fourth. He was a fourth. His best finish ever was 4th place in 15 and 16. That won't be good enough for the championship. So I think the focus shifts here. Forget about Truex Jr. Forget about Martinsville. Put it all in the rearview mirror, and the focus has to be now on getting that car right for Homestead Miami in 2 weeks and giving it your best effort. And I think Logano's going to put up a good fight. I don't know if he's going to be a champion this year. I really don't. I think he's, as I said, deserving of it. I wouldn't be mad at it, but let's just see how the chips fall and who's going to be in that round of 4 with Joey. So we'll move on to some other top finishers, sort of the Martinsville recap here before we move on. We don't got a lot to cover this program, but we'll make it work, and I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about over the next 3 weeks. So Hamlin, 2nd place finish here, continues a solid playoff run. He has eliminated in the round of 16. Bit of a letdown season for him, but I think he's come on really strong lately. He's been honestly one of the best drivers on the tour in the last 4 races. 3rd top 5 finish in the last 4. 2nd runner-up finish in that time frame, Dover, Martinsville. Still searching for first win of 2018. Wants to keep that streak alive of winning a race since 2016. He's got a couple good opportunities left. He's a former Texas winner. He won Homestead at the final. He's done it in the finale before, 13. So he's definitely not a stranger to this kind of predicament. But I think for Hamlin, it's about next season. And if they retain, I think a crew chief change would do him some good. Maybe swap some things around. And if there is anything he can do to step up the performance for next season, I think Denny Hamlin has a lot of good races left in him. And I think the next 3 races, I just don't think he's going to win this year. I think he's going to I think that streak's going to come to an end. But if he continues to keep running the way he's been running, who am I to say he can't win? And I think Hamlin is in an interesting stage of his career. I wouldn't say he's on the back end of it, but he's in that, I guess, point where you're thinking about what's next and where you still have a tremendous amount of fight left in you. And I think Hamlin is in a transitional year, and just going to see how he all bounces back from it in 2019. Truex Jr., as you said, third place run here. Controversial tangle with Logano. Loses his shot at the win. This is his third place finish in the playoffs. As we said, he vows Logano will not win this championship, and he wants to win it. So a question will be here, is frustration really setting in? We talk about the long drought, hasn't won in a while. This team was so consistent last year, down the stretch. The year before was a legitimate threat to win any race, even in tracks Truex historically did not perform well at. He was in the thick of things, very much setting the pace. And I think there's just too many distractions for Furniture Row. You know, this team is downsized from the two-car operation from a year ago. They announced that the sponsors are leaving. Truex Jr. seems to be, his plans are kind of up in the air, but I think if you believe in the rumor innuendo, is he is going to Joe Gibbs. It makes sense to me. I think that's the best option for him out there. But I think not winning a race in Kentucky in July, the distractions with the team closing, I think it's too much for this team to overcome. And I think this team is really in a critical position going into Texas. They don't perform well here. We talked about how he has not historically performed well at Phoenix. His back is to the wall here. I think for the first time in his, I guess, run at superstardom, we'll call it. As he said, I wouldn't say his tenure with Furniture Row, the first season was a write-off, but this is the first time in nearly 3 years where I think this team is in a position where they're kind of searching for an identity right now. They don't know who they are. They're defending champions, but like in a boxing match, champs are on the ropes, man. I think they're one knockout punch away from getting KO'd, and if he has any kind of finish like he had in the spring, this is over with. I think I predicted he wouldn't make it to this far, so he's proven me wrong. But I just didn't feel going into this Truex Jr. had that same zeal as he did in previous years, and I just think once this team announced this was it, I think they honestly, they're not going to say this, and no team's ever going to admit to this, but I think they waved their white flags, they threw in their towels, and I think they're now focused on finding employment for the remaining drivers, the remaining crew members from this team who want to continue on at some capacity in the sport. And for Truex, I mean, and his crew chief, it could be just the beginning of something great, but they're doing it somewhere else and continue to live on the legacy that they've built in the last 4 years. And like I said, I'm pretty impressed. So you look back, this is one of the more successful runs in NASCAR history, Truex Jr. and Furniture Row. One of the best combinations, driver-team combinations, I think. I'm not going to say of all time, but I think you'd have to give them at least consideration. He's second in the standings. He's 21 points off the lead. A little bit of racing karma. I mean, 2 consecutive years he misses a shot at the Martinsville win. He was second in the fall of 17, third here in the fall of 18. Where he goes from here, as I said, it's the major component to his quest for the championship. I think how he races this race but Texas, I think you look at his Texas record, he was a second place run in the fall of 17 and third in the fall of 16. Fall of 18, does he convert that 2-3 to a 1? We'll see. He was third at Phoenix in the fall of 17. We talked about, he's not really good here. He was actually fifth in the spring race, and he went on to win the title at Homestead last year. So he out-dueled Kyle Busch, hung on for the championship. But 4 top 5s and 7 playoff races. I think the mistakes at the Roval, getting caught up with Johnson there at the end, and the Martinsville uh, battle with Joey Logano, I think is really, had he converted the win at the Roval, would have done a lot for the team. I think team morale boosted him up, his confidence, and winning in Martinsville, ultimately you have a chance to defend your championship. You know you have that. Now there's 2 weeks of playing that, back and forth to, am I going to have an opportunity to defend this championship? Are they still in the driver's seat? No, they're not. I think the focus and the momentum has shifted elsewhere. This team is now playing catch up. They're on the defense instead of the offense. And I think in some times in a championship chase or a battle, someone who's not in the lead, if you're playing from behind, that could be advantageous. But they haven't really been in that position very often. And I think this is really how, and I know Furniture Row Racing is going away. It's the 78's gone. But I think this could also really set the bar for where Truex Jr. as a driver himself goes from here. So we'll move on. Kyle Busch gets a 4th place here, first in the standings. The big 3 are back on top. You have Harvick and Truex trailing him from behind there. So 2 consecutive top 5 finishers for Kyle. Sided with Truex Jr. on this tango with Logano. It's very much in support of his future teammate. Well, sort of current teammate, as it's a satellite team for Row, Joe Gibbs. So the title advantage is still with the big 3. Most recent winner of the trio is Kyle Busch at Richmond in September. He's the only one that has the playoff win. So I think out of the 3 guys we talk about a lot and who have sort of redefined Cup racing, Busch is in the best opportunity to get himself that championship number 2, and I think he has a slight edge over his big 3 comrades. And Kevin Harvick was quiet this week, man. Was he not? I mean, Harvick wasn't being Harvick this week. But we'll move on. Brad Keselowski is a 5th place run here. His first top 5 since his win at Vegas in September. Bounces back nicely from a heartbreak at Kansas, where he's eliminated from the playoffs, and could play the spoiler role going down the stretch here, and could win Texas, could win Phoenix, could just win Homestead. I mean, Brad Keselowski, man, I think he could have a say in this championship picture before it's all said and done. And aside from playing a spoiler role, I think he could be firmly behind Logano and his Penske teammate. I think the focus shifts there. And as you said, the championship experience, Keselowski is a champion in the sport. I don't think he's a selfish driver. I think he's a team player, and I think rallying behind Logano over these next 3 races is going to be a key component to if Logano has an opportunity to call himself a champion on November the 18th. But Keselowski, nice run for him. Good way to bounce it back. And Kurt Busch will get to 6th place run here. Rallies from a poor Kansas run. This is the most polarizing figure in this playoff to me. And he's firmly in the title picture. He's far from eliminated, despite the ups and downs in this playoff. The most polarizing driver in this championship hunt. Still nothing confirmed for 19 with 3 races to go. I think all signs point to Ganassi, but still nothing yet to be finalized. And I think for Kurt, these next 3 events are just as critical as anybody out on the circuit right now. I think we know he's won Texas, okay at Phoenix, but I think if Kurt has that chance to go in that Final 4, so we're going to see a veteran driver who's going to rely on all his experience, and he's a former champion, the first time champion when the playoffs started way back in 2004. And I think for Kurt, I wouldn't count him out. And I think it would be a great story if he were to become 2-time champion. That would definitely solidify him in the Hall of Fame conversation. Now, I think he's already there based on winning Daytona 500. He's a champion. He's won some pretty big races in his career. I think Kurt already will, put himself in the conversation for the Hall of Fame. But I think 2 titles, guy's locked in. Sign him up. I think he's in that hall. Chase Elliott, 7th place finished. Red hot driver from the first from the first race in round of 12 and made a great accounting for himself in that round of 12, 2 wins in the last 4 races. In the thick of the title fight himself, lone Chevrolet driver, lone Hendrick driver. This is where he wants to be. I think this is ideally where a lot of folks thought Chase Elliott would be. And he has an opportunity now to really solidify himself. And if he comes up short, I mean, this is just scratching the surface. I think there's so much more left in Elliott. I think there's a lot of good race wins. I think there's championships in this. He's a champion in the Xfinity Series. But in the end of it all, if he sneaks his way through to the Final Four, does he have enough to challenge anyone of the big three, any combination of the big three, or even Joey Logano for that matter? Is how we're going to see in the next 3 races, I think, just how good Chase is going to be down the stretch and into next season. And I think just absolutely the highest praise for Chase. I think it's refreshing to see him do so well and to finally reach into another, just to me, he's in another whole other stratosphere at this point. And I think you're seeing the making of a real genuine superstar. And forget what his last name is. I think if Chase was just Chase, fill in the blanks, say he's not Chase Elliott, I still think you have a tremendous talent here who is going to win a lot of events and going to really carry the Hendrick banner into the next decade. So he's 19 points above the cutoff, 6th in the standings. So in a bit of a tight spot. I mean, he's going to have to perform really well here at Texas. He can win it, but I mean, he doesn't want to put himself in that position where it comes down to Phoenix. And I'm just hopeful that he can get himself in, because I think, to me, you put him in that Final Four and he's got a fighting chance. If he fails to make the Final Four, let's put ourselves in the hypothetical machine here for a moment and say, what if he doesn't make the Final Four? Is this season considered a loss, disappointment, or is this season an absolute triumph for him? And I'm going to go with the triumph, because I think to finally not only win your first career race and silence those who were starting to doubt his ability as a race car driver, you back that up with 2 wins even in the playoffs. Breakout season, call it what you want to do, a career season. This is Chase Elliott. He's finally arrived. He's here. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for him. I see a lot of great things out of Chase, but I think if he doesn't make this Final Four, personally, I'm disappointed, because I think I'd love to see him compete for the championship. But I think, in all fairness and all honesty, this is not a disappointing season for Chase, and I think Chase has earned himself every bit of the success he's attained to this point is well deserved, and I think he's going to go on to do great things in 2019, and just might be your upset champion in 2018. Never know. So Daniel Suarez, it seems like we can never go an episode without talking about Daniel Suarez. And what a polarizing, him and Busch, I swear to you. The last, I'll throw Almirola in there too. These are my favorite dudes over the last, let's say, 4 months. I'm just drinking the Suarez Kool-Aid. I'm drinking the Busch Kool-Aid. I'm drinking Almirola. I'm just soaking this in. And Daniel Suarez gets a 9th place finish here. He's still fighting the good fight. He knows. Come on, these people they're not naive. They know, they read the same shit we read in the news, and he knows he's on his way out of here, but he's still putting up one hell of a fight, committing to the car, battling. He's got nothing to lose, everything to gain here, uncertainty over his future. But again, articles came out again this week. I guess they're rumoring in your dirt sheet. I don't want to read too much. Maybe just complete fabrications. I don't know, but still very much linked to the 41 car for Stewart-Haas in 19. I guess that's all depending on sponsorship. But if he does end up, in that car, I think that's going to be freaking fun to watch next year. I think he's going to just absolutely excel in that. This is going to see Daniel Suarez, and I think he's going to do tremendous things in that car if he's given that opportunity. So these are the next 3 races is an audition for him. He can go out of Joe Gibbs Racing in a blaze of glory or up in flames, but he's still making the best of the situation, knowing that they changed the crew chief. Scott Graves is out of there. He's working with Dave Rogers again. Still making it work, and I think Daniel Suarez is one of those drivers. I mean, I told you last 4 months, man, I'm drinking the Suarez Kool-Aid. I'm all in on this guy. I think he is the star of the future in this series, and pretty interesting. I saw his the Halloween party with Ryan Blaney and company there. Interesting costume choice, alfalfa. He pulled it off nicely, Mr. Suarez. Well done. It was really cool. So the Stewart-Haas trio, the other 3 guys that are in this championship, other than Kurt Busch, Harvick gets himself, looks a little out of place here and doesn't lead a lap. Gets a 10th place run here. Texas and Phoenix, his ticket to the Final Four. I mean, Phoenix, we know that he owns this place. Probably the most dominant driver at any racetrack, I think, in NASCAR history. You look at the records, you know what Jimmy Johnson and Gordon, and you look at what at Martinsville, look at Richard Petty, Earnhardt and Talladega. But for some reason, just Harvick knows how to get around Phoenix, and his track record there is just undeniably super fantastic, for lack of a better term. But him not in the Final Four, I mean, it wouldn't be bizarre. I mean, I think same thing. He's cooled off a bit, hasn't won since August in Michigan. He's got to find that winning magic if he expects to go all the way. But I think he's a good, out of the final 3, those big 3, if you ask me who I think out of those big 3 names, Busch, Truex, Harvick, they say you got to eliminate 1, eliminate 2, eliminate all 3. I'd love to do that. Honestly, I played a bit of the spoiler role there. I would love to see none of those guys in the Final Four, and that would be an incredible story, but it's not going to happen. They're just too much talent, too much power, and they're at least 1 or 2 of them are going to be there. But I think Harvick has an opportunity to get there. But I'd say Kyle Busch, out of those 3, if you have to eliminate 2, I'm going Kyle Busch in the Final Four. I would not even put Harvick in there. And you all know I don't think Truex Jr. is going to get there. Phoenix, again, if he can rally, if he's true to form, he's got that wrapped up. That's his best opportunity. I think Texas, although he's won here, I'm not circling that as one of his best tracks, and we'll see how it all plays out for him. Eric Almirola in 11th. Dream season continues. Breakout season, if anything. I wouldn't call it a dream, but for him it could be. I mean, he's running in top-tier equipment. It's got financial backing, that sponsored at Smithfield that's been with him through thick and thin. Virtually nothing to lose here in this round. I think no one is penciling him into that Final Four. Could be dangerous if you're not really looking at someone as a viable threat to something. Then that's their time to shine. That's their time to sort of pull the wool over everyone's eyes and just run with this. And it'd be amazing if he can get to that Final Four. That would be huge for his confidence. Whether he wins this or not, walks away with the hardware at the end. If, let's say, he makes this Final Four, regardless if he walks away champion, I think this is a great season for him. He's exceeded all expectations, and I think Eric Almirola is putting himself in that top tier. He's sort of elevating his game, and I think we'll be talking about him for a very long time. Relishes that underdog role, and I think you get him in that Final Four. Underdogs unite. This guy, get behind him. Hey, he had top 5 Richard Petty Motorsports when he's subbing for Kane a while back. So it's not something that we can totally dismiss. I think it's something that right place, right time, right? Eric Almirola. So Clint Bowyer, 21st place run. He felt like, when you heard a lot of the interviews with Clint, he felt Martinsville was, was his best opportunity to sneak his way into the Final Four, because God knows he knows it himself. does not have the equipment. As well as Stuart Haas has done, he's got the 2 wins. He does not have the power to compete with teammate Harvick or Kyle or even Truex Jr. for that matter. His only way in is to win. And his track record at Texas, Phoenix, not the brightest, and just failed here, I think, to capitalize on an opportunity to make that Final Four. And again, Clint Bowyer is one of those drivers, I think, gets that Final Four. He's been in championship battles with RCR and MWR, can rely on that experience. And this team, the 14 car, remember that? And Tony drove the car, 2011. One of the greatest championship battles of all time with Carl Edwards. And it was just marvelous race, was it not? I mean, we're going to cover that. I think that's could be a bonus for November. Let's go back in the way, not the way back, but let's go a little bit in the way back here. And maybe we'll cover 2011, the finale, the battle between Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart. Remarkable race. So we'll move on from Martinsville, put that in the rear view mirror, the tricky paperclip that seems to wreak havoc and the kaleidoscope of chaos that was Martinsville. It's over and done with. See them in April, October of next year. So Jimmie Johnson, good old JJ. Talk a lot about him this year, haven't we? I think his struggles have been at the forefront. But now he gets himself a financial backer here. He gets himself an ally, if you will. So Ally Financial agrees to a 2-year deal with Johnson to become a sponsor for the 48. It's going to be the pink and gray 48 as opposed to the blue and gray, the Lowe's colors. As Lowe's is outgoing, as everyone knows the story, 48 team. I've been with them since 2001. Jimmie ran a handful of races there in 01 to prepare for 02's rookie season. Just a transitional year for him. I think he's still very much focused, I think, in his mind. If you'd ask Jimmie Johnson, an 8th championship is attainable, I think he'd tell you it is. Statistics might not. It's really dropped off the map in the last 2 years, but 83 career wins. Kevin Mindering is now the crew chief, pit boss. So this is a fresh, brand new look for this team. It's like a revamp of the 48. Youth and experience all in one. And I think this is a real indicator that Johnson, who could still get himself a highly marketable driver. He's still a highly marketable driver, can get himself a high-profile sponsor. That's what I meant to say. In this Ally Financial out of Michigan, says a lot still about Jimmie Johnson, that there's still an interest in him as a driver and him as an ambassador for NASCAR. And I think next year is going to be really critical. And we say this a lot of drivers, but I think just worst season of his career. Let's call for what it is. Next year's the real, I think, the tipping point for the future of Jimmie Johnson. Is he going to have an opportunity to win that elusive 8 championship, or is this the end of the line? We'll have to wait and see. But there's a press release from Hendrick Motorsports, covered from J-Ski. So we'll read this here. It was back last Sunday, October 28th. So it says Jimmie Johnson has found a full-time ally, play on words there, like it, in his mission to win a record-breaking 8th NASCAR Cup Series championship. Ally Financial will join Hendrick Motorsports for the whole season as the primary. Johnson's iconic, it's iconic now, which it is, 48, Camaro in 2019, and again, we'll do it again in 2020. The partnership will feature a leading digital financial service company on the driver and the champion driver's car across the entire 38 race schedule, beginning in 2019 Daytona Speed Weeks and the 61st running of the Daytona 500. And here we go. This is a quote here, and we'll read. We are beyond thrilled to be in the fast lane with Jimmie Johnson, one of the most successful drivers in NASCAR history, and Hendrick Motorsports, a premier organization in professional sports. Says Jeffrey Brown, the CEO of Ally. Both share Ally's passion for delivering results for our customers and for our communities. with a deep commitment to do the right thing for the people who count on us the most. We look forward to working with this extraordinary team to build a strong and successful relationship as Ally enters this exciting sport. With the commitment in doing right by its customers, Ally has changed online banking landscape with the innovational digital experience of 24/7 customer service, great rates, and cashback credit cards. Ally's full scope of financial service offerings include award-winning online banking, auto finance, and insurance businesses, digital wealth management and online brokerage platform, mortgage lending services, and corporate finance operation. Its corporate citizen programs include charitably giving, employee contributions, matching volunteerism, financial education, and etc. So it just says here for Hendrick, this is from the press release, this is a proud day for our entire organization, said Mr. Hendrick, Rick Hendrick of Hendrick Motorsports. Ally has built a tremendous brand by putting its customers at the center of their decisions and doing things right. In the same way, Jimmie has always put people first and handled himself like a champion in every sense of the word. Ally's full season commitment makes the powerful statement about their enthusiasm for him and our program and the direction of our sport. It's an unbelievable fit for all of us, and we are thrilled to launch what will be a long, successful partnership. So Johnson and the 48 have cemented themselves as one of the greatest dynasties in sports. Not going to disagree with that. Their record-tying 7 titles equaled by legends Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr., including 5 in a row from 06 to 10, and in 29, Jimmie Johnson became the first race driver to ever be named the Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year, joining the likes of Muhammad Ali, MJ, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. And it says here, it goes on to say the El Cajon California native has earned 83 points paying race wins and led more than 18,000 career laps, and he has made a record 15 consecutive playoff appearances. And so that's that. That's pretty much the press release from Jimmie Johnson and the 48 team as they finally find themselves a sponsor for next season. So now we're going to wave the white flag, soon to wave the checker on this episode of the super fantastic, above average racing spectacular. So 5 drivers to watch. Texas. It's a critical race in this championship. Is it not? Second to last in the round of 8. 2 of the big 3 won the last 2. Jimmie Johnson's owned this place in recent years. Lots of intriguing storylines. So Kyle Busch, I think, is someone you have to look at any race you go to, but especially here. I mean, he's looking for a sweep here for the first time since 2015. Johnson did it. His first time in his career he would sweep Texas, winning the spring event and the fall event. So he's a 3-time Texas winner, but all 3 have come in the spring. He's never been able to pull off that feat in the fall. Last 2 races, 2 top 5s, runner-up at Kansas, 4th at Martinsville. Again, the leading driver in the big 3, I think at this point. He's had the most success out of the 3 drivers in the playoffs and in the last bit of time there. And I think for Kyle Busch, he wins this, he'll lock himself into Homestead, and you know how strong he's been there the last couple years. My goodness, very close to catching Truex Jr. Last season. I think with the championship, 1 more lap, 2 more laps, he's got him guaranteed. So Jimmie Johnson, I think we all know the story behind him. He's trying to keep that streak alive of winning every event since 2002, since his rookie year. Still in search of the first win of 2018. He's got 3 more shots at it. 7-time Texas winner. He last won there in the spring of 17, and 5 of his 7 wins come in the fall at Texas. He excels at this time of year at the track. I'm not counting him out. I think at this point, maybe the focus is shifted for next season and just regrouping and the 40. But I think everybody would love to see in the Cinderella story, happy book, storybook ending. Everybody walks away happy that him and Chad Knaus win at least 1 more race together. I don't know. I'm gonna say no, but I'm not mad at it. If he wins a race, I'm over the moon. I'm nice to see streaks continue. This is a sport of streaks, and this season itself has been quite streaky. And I think to see him fall short of that would be disappointing, and but I'm just not feeling it. So Truex Jr., I think this is a chance for him to forget about Martinsville, piece it all together, and I'm going to put him in as one of their drivers to look after here at Texas and keep your eye on, as he's a runner-up in the fall of 2017. He was third in the fall of 16. He's desperate for a win. As we keep talking about, beating the dead horse here, but has not won since Kentucky in July. Uncharacteristic of Martin Truex Jr. from the previous 2 seasons. Really, really desperate for a win. 6 top 10s in the last 7 Texas races. Particularly not the strongest track for him. You look at his statistics, but he sort of adapted to tracks where he hasn't been strong in his historical run here with Furniture Row, and he wins this. This to me is the ultimate shot in the armor for Furniture Row. This is pretty much putting the rest of the competition on notice, saying, yeah, we're going away. We're closing up shop in a couple of weeks, but we're right here. We're still in the thick of this championship, and they're not laying down just yet. And that would set up a media frenzy, because guess who's in the Final Four? It'd be Truex and Logano. Championship dogfight there at the end. Who knows? But I think Truex Jr. is a highly credible candidate to take the checkered flag at Texas on Sunday. I just think that this kind of environment lately, the way things are going, this suits him just fine, and I think this is something he could thrive on, and would not be at all shocked he wins this thing at Texas. Kurt Busch, as I said, 2009 fall winner. He's driving for Roger Penske. 2 consecutive poles at Texas is clearly bringing some fast cars here at Texas. Qualifies really well here. 3 consecutive top 10 finishes at Texas. This is what Kurt needs. If Kurt is going to put him, and again, I'm going to say it for what it is. I'm going to be not going to sugarcoat nothing. I'll be realistic as I can here. Only way he gets in, he wins. The points, it's just not going to happen. He's not going to transfer to the Final Four. He's not going to be in that position. He's too far behind. At this stage, you win and you're in. To me, this represents his best opportunity to win. He's probably not going to win Phoenix. But Kurt, I think, again, 5th in the standings. I think he still has a say in this championship title. I really believe he does. I mean, and he's racing for the future as well. I know that we talked about it, again, numerous times in our episodes, that he's linked to Ganassi, but nothing's official yet. This is all rumor and innuendo bullshit that might not even come to fruition. It's all could be just complete fabrication. However, I do think that the sponsorship for Monster Energy, which is a personal sponsor for Kurt, will have a say in where he goes, and if it is Ganassi, and who knows, but he could end up winding up staying here. He's really, honestly, with this team, been in doubt for the past, since 3 years? Since he arrived here, it's been every year, is Kurt Busch going to be back in the 41? This could be the year he's finally gone, but I don't know. I just can't help but not. I think you shouldn't sleep on him. I think he's someone you still got to keep your eyes on, and I think could be a race winner at Texas, and I think he's someone that don't close the book on just yet. 2-time champion? Maybe. Chase Elliott. So, Chase, and I'm putting Chase in this again, as I did last week, racetracks where he's never won. I did that actually at Kansas, where he won the race, I think, when I talked about the 5 guys you got to watch. That's 2 weeks ago. My goodness, where am I? But anyhow, you know what I'm trying to say is that the record, the momentum is shifted in his favor. He's finally confident. His confidence is there. He's confident that he can race the wheels off anything. And that does a lot for a driver. So, but his record here is not so bad. You look at the record. No finish worse than 11th in 5 career starts. Best was a 4th the fall of 2016. 4 top 5 finishes. 4 top 10 finishes in those 5 starts. And as I said, the momentum, he could feed off what he did in that round of 8 was impressive. I mean, round of 12, can carry that into the round of 8. Race number 2 of this, just best foot forward. Chase Elliott, I think, is someone that could wind up winning Texas. Hendrick Motorsports, as you know, 7 times for Jimmie Johnson. He has that to rely on. I mean, you get some tips from Jimmie. He's been in a championship battle. I think this works really in his favor. I mean, if there's anyone, even Johnson's had a miserable year, but if there's anyone you want to have in your ear and to give you some pointers, why not a 7-time champion and a teammate in Jimmie Johnson? I think that could go a long way for Chase Elliott in Texas. I think in any event, it's going to be one of those races, I think, where we might have a repeat winner or he could have an upset. I think it's just this kind of environment lately and the way things have been played out in the playoffs that it lends itself to this setup, this storyline. And I think Eric Almirola, someone like Clint Boyer, I mean, people that really no one is considering in the Final Four. I think Logano would fit that bill as well, but I think a small pocket size of the racing community would say, hey, I think Logano is a better candidate for the Final Four than, let's say, a Boyer or Almirola, Chase Elliott for that matter. But just never know, right? You never know. We'll have to wait and see, and then you can make your final thoughts and your analogies from there. But I think it's all the build up towards what should be an incredible championship battle in a couple weeks. Because since they've implemented this point system where the wins mean a lot in 2014, and there's this Final Four, this big fight feel, Game 7 showdown, the races have become more meaningful and the build up to the final at Homestead. I think this year's no exception, where you're going to have that same, I think, sense of urgency that you did at Martinsville, at Texas, and even it's going to be heightened at Phoenix. It's going to be off the charts. And I said, with only one transfer position, if there's a repeat winner, there's a different winner. Say there's 2 different winners, Texas, Phoenix, it puts that real pressure on the other drivers who have to get in on points. And that's probably going to realistically be 2 drivers. And it'll be up to them to duke it out and who could finish above who. Remember Ryan Newman's move on Kyle Larson in 2014 that led him to the Final Four, and who knows what could have been. I still think about that often. What if Ryan Newman would have actually won the 2014 championship? No wins, but I think at that point he would have had to win Homestead, so he would have won the race. But that, to me, was another interesting championship battle that we might cover sometime, but it's so fairly recent that I don't know if 2014 counts as the way back, but throwback. Thursday episode maybe, but it's all the same. So I'm going to wave the checkered flag on this episode of Super Fantastic Above Average Racing Spectacular. I thank you again for taking the time to listen, and really like the direction we're headed with this, and I think we'll have some bonuses coming up in November again. I'm going to go look at, I think, just this championship season at this time. All the focus is on the championship. We'll cover some races that race finales that necessarily maybe didn't have the dramatic feel that these championship battles do, but I think still nonetheless were highly entertaining events. And I think 2011, I think we're going to go with that one, Stewart and Carl Edwards. That was, to me, one of the greatest battles of all time in any form of racing. And we're actually going to be covering in our bonus episode that is coming up same day as this, the kart finale, which was the anniversary was yesterday, 19th year anniversary of the kart finale at Fontana. Dario Franchitti and Juan Montoya was another championship battle for the ages. But as I said, we're going to put a bow on this episode. We're going to get out of here, and I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Hope that everyone is doing well and that you continue to support what we're doing here. And until next time, we will see you.